So this is a movie that was released back in 1936. It is Charlie Chaplin's masterpiece. It was in the post-silent era, although not a lot of visuals were used, as in not a lot of talking of them in the movie. It was about two major characters, which was one was Charlie Chaplin, who was an industrial worker, and a gamin, who is another downtrodden lady. Entire movie had overtones of alienation, which is the analytical tool we are going to use to drive home the point. The hypothesis that we picked is that one loses touch with humanity in an industrial world. We are going to drive home this point through different examples coming later. So I have just a few questions for you guys. So anyone has the answer about who painted this? Nice. So you get half of this. Who wrote this book? This is Lord of the Rings, the initial version. Who invented the airplane? Yeah, it's up to so. Okay, so who made this car? Nissan. No, who made this car? No. So the answer is no one knows really. A lot of blue collar workers, laborers were involved in creating this car. Wherein we derive the concept of alienation. So what is alienation? In the layman's terms, it is the separation of things that naturally belong together, placement of antagonism between things which are generating harmony. But in Karl Marx's term, it's the result of it's a systemic result of living in a socially stratified class. Because one loses touch, because being a mechanistic part of a social class, one loses touch with humanity. The laborers, they lose the ability to determine their life and destiny because they are deprived of the right to be the directors of their own actions. They to determine what is being said to them, to determine or define the relationships between themselves and the others, and finally value their own work, which is where the alienation between the worker and the product comes into picture. Now I'll just show you a few clips, short ones.
Section 5, lower speed, 4-7.
What we see here in this particular scene is the laborer is mindlessly sitting with the cows. What we see is he doesn't have the opportunity to actually look at the end product. He doesn't really know whatever he's doing, what is the end product. Wherein the theory of Karl Marx again comes into picture, where he talks about material life being the end to which the capitalists have all the access to, while the laborer is seen as a means to it. I'll just show you two more clips. So this talks about how the manager is trying to control everything that the laborer does. What he's doing in the scene is he's asking the person to increase the speed. What the industrialists and capitalists in those times wanted to do was they wanted to increase the productivity. And as and when they increase the speed of the work that was required to be done, the wage that the laborers were paid remained the same. So as this happened, the laborers basically lost their powers. But what they did was just submit to whatever was being asked of them. The reason is because they were this movie is in a period of Great Depression, and there's a struggle to not only keep yourself having some self-activity but also secure your lively existence. Then there is a scene of lunch machine. Here is again more rigid controls being used by the managers, by the industrialists. They are trying to direct. So here you see a class of laborers who are doing the acting part, as in executional part, and branch managers who are doing the thinking part. And the entire appropriation theory of Karl Marx comes into picture here. This is the last short bit. The laborer becomes so mechanized. The industrialists are successful in getting him to do whatever they want, and he loses sight. He is essentially someone who he is not. And when it comes to the factor where there is an isolation between the laborer and himself as well, he is just a mechanized person like a robot who's keeping on doing the screwing of the cogs without really knowing what he's doing. So we'll talk about the different stages of alienation now.
So now we will go into more clearly defining all these different stages of alienation, seeing how the worker is going through each of the stages and ultimately becoming alienated from himself. So first of all, I will start with something called homo faber, man the creator. So this is like something which became popular after Karl Marx. So ideally, even for you people, your work should be something which is inspiring you, something out of which you are getting a sense of pride, something which is sort of an identity for yourself. But is that happening for the kind of worker which is operating in the 1930s, and that is the kind of role which Charles Chaplin plays. So if you look at the first stage, it is the stage of alienation from the product. So for him, he is just merely putting down some screws. He has no clue of the final form of the product. He doesn't feel that there is any sort of pride in doing this sort of work, and to him, even he is not able to realize that his work is ultimately adding some kind of value to the final form of the product. So this is basically the alienation from the product. If we take it one step further, he is also getting alienated from the process itself. So to him, working all along the day like this, and the symbolic representation of being guided along with the wheel, he is just feeling like an extension of the or just another cog in the wheel. So again, he has no control over the design of the process, how the process goes, and as Vardan showed a clip, the only thing which is controlling the process is the speed of the assembly line. If the speed of the assembly line is increasing, he has to work faster. So this further leads to another more dire scenario. He is even alienated from the fellow workers. The entire scene is so competitive, and the labor force is just being made as a commodity, and it is just freely traded in the market. There is so much competition, you can get fired any day. You are feeling no kind of social connect with your fellow workers. And in that sense, you are alienated from the society in which you are for a major part of your day. So the final step goes on to say that he is alienated from himself. So going through this sort of monotonous lifestyle and having no sense of pride, the only thing which he is getting out of his work is a wage, which is all so very minimalist, like the minimum which they would have to give. So he finally gets disconnected from all his senses, and as we saw in the clips, he is just running around in the factory. He is causing disruption. There is a loss of productivity with it. But there is something very serious that they are trying to address to this. So because of these capitalist greed, they are stripping out all the human part from the laborer, and they are just trying to ensure that they do not rebel or resist in any way, and they are able to get their work done out of the minimum wage. And how these scenarios or these things apply in the contemporary situation, these things will be further clarified.
So basically here, alienation is the capitalist is using the workers as a tool. He's stripping humanity out, mainly social interactions. He's stripping their self-confidence, making them lose their identity. So I'll be taking on some modern day examples, which will have been quoted, and I'm sure we'll quote it again over the course of this class. So first, the IT industry. So is it different? Is today's Indian IT industry different from any assembly line? The truth is, it is not. There you have thousands of workers, each doing a part. Often, most of them don't even understand what the other people are doing in the thing, but they've been programmed in such a way that they have to do the same task, do the same repeated code, or it's literally they're instructed. So we can go through this once and see how it strips them of their humanity. So we look at, is it alienation from the IT professional's perspective? So is there alienation from the product? So typically the software these guys are making, it is for some big corporate. Like if you take the example of Infosys, it doesn't really reach their products to us consumers, because for corporates. So is this product in any way improving the worker or the programmer's life? No, it's not. Does he even use it? Often he doesn't. There is obviously, you can't blame him for getting distance slowly from the product, but it is boring, repetitive work, and it is of no great consequence that product to him as such, as a user. Is there alienation from the process? Obviously there is. It is, the process is sort of like a black box. He's being told that you have to code this, you have to debug this. There is, often he does not have a say, obviously, because the pyramid, the hierarchy pyramid in the IT industry is such that it is extremely broad basically at the bottom. So obviously there is no real say in the managerial process, on the design or anything for these workers. Then is there alienation from other workers? Obviously there is. One part of it is the competitiveness that in the IT industry, labor is cheap, you can get it readily, thousands of engineering colleges providing IT professionals. There is also the part of interaction. Is there truly interaction? I'm not talking about within a level, but there are so many levels. So between workers, let's say between you and your manager, would there be truly be interaction in this industry? The thing is that often there isn't. Because of the competitive nature of the industry, or because of the way the pyramid shapes up, that you have like maybe 10 people under you, then only one guy gets promoted up ahead. So obviously they tend to distance themselves basically. Then there is alienation from oneself. Basically this is, you have the American dream, so this is the Indian nightmare. You have monotony in the work. People get sick of it. After 3 years you have them leave, typically for MBAs or at least try for MBAs. So how can one remain motivated? This basically is capturing all the essence of our argument that there is a loss of humanity in the industrial world, where we're taking IT as a modern industry basically and trying to capture it out. Then the next example would be the Maruti Manasatan incident. This I'll talk from the point of view of alienation now. So initially, this is much before the incident happened, or even before it became slightly public. There were harsh working conditions. Everybody knows that they were made to work 12, 14 hours a day, overpaid, the overtime were not adequately paid. Arbitrarily there was a hire and fire policy because of the contractual nature of the labor. People were removed, new people taken on next month, people who had problems were removed instantly. Workers were paid around rupees 4,000 per month, which is even less than the Haryana government's minimum wage is 5,000. So that is the point of note. And then the protest. This is actually much before our incident. This was a peaceful protest first initially, which then started. Then what happened was that now we come to the next step. This is the first part. Is basically they were being alienated from the process and the product through the conditions that were imposed upon them. Then Maruti Suzuki's response was they first hired bouncers. Bouncers were basically for anybody causing peaceful protests within the company. They hired armed guards, termed as bouncers, who were well asked to take care of it. Let's put it like that. Then they had the basically state police administration and the media were also on their payroll. That's why it never came out prior to the final incident. That when it was revealed that even the corporate media and the state police were on their payroll to keep it under wraps, what is happening. Then alienation from each other. This was the management, the capitalists causing this for the workers. That the workers were attacked with basically misinformation. There was internal segmentation where the contractual and the actual labor, you had some workers, 180 workers roughly, I think, were given permanent contracts, and contractual workers still kept their permanent contract ones were given higher pay. They figured that basically by segmenting the labor, they could cause a divide within the labor and not have them attack the capitalists as a whole. finally what the outcome was that the workers decided to wage a forceful struggle against Maruti. As you know, the general manager of HR, he was left to suffocate and burn. He was beaten up and left to suffocate and burn on fire. So basically this is just, I mean, I in no way support what incident happened, but from the workers' point of view, I think this covers just what has happened, that a manager basically assaulted and dying of suffocation in factory fire is a national tragedy. But a worker suffering physical hardships daily and dying silently on the margins in asphyxiating work atmospheres is understandable and acceptable. This is what the argument was. So here is where the inhumanity of it comes in. Up till now, I think we've only captured the fact that the capitalist is causing inhuman acts on the workers under him. But this, I think, can be taken as basically a response that he's pushed them, the capitalist Maruti has pushed the workers to a point where inhumanity has been brought back onto the capitalist itself. So the industrial world is not just that the lower pegs will suffer humanity, eventually you can see that they will come up to the top of the pyramid. So in that sense, this in a nutshell, that's our hypothesis, I think.